How is it going, Trailblazers? In this video we're going over the IPC Stone Heart member Jade's newly updated kit, which has now been expanded and has received several new additions from the older kit that I covered in my previous video about Jade. So let's get right into it. Basic attack, Blast of Riches, deals quantum damage equal to 45%, up to 117% of Jade's attack to a single enemy, and quantum damage equal to 15% up to 39% of Jade's attack to any adjacent enemies. This basic attack is very unique in the fact that it is the very first normal basic attack in the entire game that does blast AoE damage. Every other basic attack from other characters either only does damage to one enemy, or it needs to be enhanced by specific characters in order to do more than just single target damage. This would make Jade very SP positive, as she does not need to burn through skill points for AoE attacks, and instead gains a skill point when she hits enemies. This is very helpful in modes like Pure Fiction, where you often run out of skill points on other AoE DPS characters, because you have to use your skill every turn in order to take out as many enemies as possible in a single turn. Skill, Surety of Unscrupulous Takeover, appoints a single ally as a debt collector, increasing their speed by 30, lasting for 3 turns. When a debt collector attacks, deals additional quantum damage equal to 10%. Up to 25% of Jade's attack to every enemy hit by the attack and consumes the debt collector's HP, equal to 5% of their max HP. If their current HP is insufficient, their current HP is reduced to 1. If Jade becomes a debt collector, she is unable to gain the speed increase effect, and she will not consume HP after attacking. When there is a character in the debt collector state on field, Jade is unable to use the skill. The debt collector state duration reduces by 1 turn at the start of Jade's every turn. This skill basically buffs an ally's speed, which is the first DPS skill in the game to provide any supportive buffs, and deals additional quantum damage to any enemy when an ally she uses her skill on attacks any enemy, very similar to the effect added by Robin's ultimate. Another thing to take note of is that the skill consumes an ally's max HP whenever an ally under the skill's effect does an attack. This means characters like Blade would have very great synergy with Jade, as Blade gains stacks towards his follow-up attack every time he loses his HP, which would happen every turn if he's under the debt collector state. Talent, Gold Dust Punish. When Jade or a debt collector attacks, Jade acquires 1 charge for every enemy hit by the attack. When charge reaches 8 points, consumes 8 points and launches a follow-up attack, dealing quantum damage equal to 60%, up to 150% of Jade's attack to all enemies. This follow-up attack cannot acquire charge for Jade. When Jade launches a follow-up attack from the talent, immediately gains 5 stacks of pawned asset. Every stack of pawned asset increases crit damage by 1.2% up to 3%, up to a maximum of 50 stacks. This is the bread and butter of Jade's kit, where she launches a follow-up attack once she hits 8 stacks of her talent. The 8 stacks can be reached very quickly if the character attacking does AoE damage like Erudition or Destruction characters. Also, when Jade does a follow-up attack, she gains 5 stacks of another effect called Pawned Asset, which can stack up to 50 times. At max 50 stacks, she gains a whopping 150% crit damage, which is a massive buff. Ultimate, Descend to this Abyss, Succumb to this Incarceration. Cost, 140 energy. Deals quantum damage to 120% up to 300% of Jade's attack to all enemies. Enhances the follow-up attack from Jade's talent, increasing the follow-up attack's damage. Dealt multiplier by 40% up to 100%. The enhanced follow-up attack can take effect 2 times. This ultimate is very similar to Clara's ultimate, where it enhances the base follow-up attack for increased damage, which can only be triggered a limited number of times. Technique, Path of a Huntress. After using the technique, enemies in a set area are inflicted with blind fealty for 10 seconds. Enemies in the blind fealty state will not actively attack the team. When attacking an enemy in the blind fealty state to enter combat, causes all enemies in the blind fealty state to simultaneously enter combat. After entering combat, deals quantum damage equal to 50% of Jade's attack to all enemies, and immediately gains 15 stacks of pawned asset. If you combine 15 stacks gained from this technique, the stacks gained from using her skill and stacks gained from hitting enemies, you will easily be able to cap the crit damage stacks from her talent. Moving on to Jade's traces. Trace 1, Reverse Repo. When an enemy enters combat, Jade gains 1 stack of pawned asset. When the turn of a character in the debt collector state begins, Jade additionally gains 3 stacks of pawned asset. This basically gives her stacks of crit damage whenever an enemy enters combat and whenever the turn of the character she used her skill on begins. Trace 2 Discounted Brokerage. When the combat begins, Jade's action is advanced forward by 50%. Trace 3 Unredeemed Asset. In the talent, every stack of pawned asset additionally increases Jade's attack by 0.5%. This is basically a 25% attack increase for reaching Jade's maximum talent stacks. Jade's Light Cone, Yet Hope is Priceless. Effect Promise. Increases the wearer's crit rate by 16% up to 28%. Increases damage dealt by follow-up attacks by 16%, up to 28% for every 20% of the wearer's crit damage in combat. That exceeds 120%, up to a maximum of 4 stacks. When the combat begins and when the wearer uses a basic attack, the ultimate and follow-up attacks ignore 16% up to 28% of the enemy's defense, lasting for 2 turns. This is a pretty good light cone tailor-made for Jade. Not only does it give 16% free crit rate, that saves you some stats on relic farming, but also provides a whopping 64% follow-up damage increase, along with 16% defense ignore, which is a massive damage increase. Now finally let's go over Jade's Eidolons. E1, Selflessness Still Settleable. The follow-up attack damage from Jade's talent increases by 20% every time Jade acquires a charge. She additionally obtains 1 charge. This just gives Jade some extra follow-up damage and an extra follow-up attack talent charge when she gains 1 charge. E2, Morality Herewith Authenticated. When pawn asset increases to 15 stacks, Jade's crit rate increases by 18%. E4, Sincerity Put Option Only. When using the ultimate, the damage dealt by Jade ignores 12% of the enemy's defense, lasting for 3 turns. E6, Equity Pending Sponsorship. When there is a character in the Debt Collector state on field, Jade's Quantum Resistance pen increases by 20%, and Jade gains the Debt Collector state. This basically gives Jade 20% elemental resistance pen on all her attacks, and she permanently gains the effect of her skill on herself as long as ally, and the team is in the Debt Collector state. So these are all the new additions and changes we got to Jade's kit. What are your thoughts on the updated kit? Let me know in the comments down below and subscribe to my channel for more HSR content. I'll see you in the next video.